Here we are. Okay, hello everyone. How are you doing? Right. Okay, we are. So, happy to see you again. And hope you're doing well since last Monday. Today I'd like to start. Hello everyone. Hello, welcome. Right, today we're going to discuss, after studying on Monday, the reason why Margaret Thatcher became Prime Minister of the United Kingdom after the defeat of the Labour Party due to the economic and social and the almost say psychological crisis that struck the United Kingdom in the 1970s, at the moment when the UK was called was known as the sick man of Europe. Margaret Thatcher was elected, and as I've told you, she has remained as a highly controversial person, right? I don't know if you've been to YouTube to watch videos of people dancing in the streets when she died, right? And not singing on any song, but the song was called "The Witch is Dead." Today we're going to start studying why she's been such a controversial person. Okay, hello to everybody and welcome for those who are currently arriving. As we're not going to have an exam on this specifically, I think it's good if it's a choice I've made. I think it's good if I try to replace Margaret Thatcher, what she did in the UK, what she thought was the proper policy, in a more general approach on what we call neoliberalism. Okay? And today, I think I'm going to use this, the 45 minutes we have together. I hope we can be together up to 3 or 3:15, as you want, right? If you want to leave earlier, you're still free, right? Yeah, it's not a prison here. Yeah, I hope it's never been. I would like to focus on three words, okay, which are totally linked to what Margaret Thatcher was, okay, and what she believed in. If you remember, one slogan which is associated to Margaret Thatcher is something called conviction politics. And that means, conviction politics, that she had ideas to defend. And these ideas can be summarized under three other words: neoliberalism, monetarianism, and individualism. Okay? These are clearly what has made Margaret Thatcher a revolutionary person. And a very common OIB question is, was there a Thatcher revolution? And you know what a revolution is? It means that you totally reverse. It's a full reverse. In the end, you go back to the same place normally. But it's a full change in the way people consider politics or the economy or society. Okay? And so I would like to explain you what made Margaret Thatcher this person of conviction. I don't know if you remember this. one day, it might have been on a BB collab class, we made a DBQ, and the DBQ had Margaret Thatcher praising Clement Attlee. And she praised Clement Attlee in spite of him being a Labour and the man that implemented the welfare state and totally transformed the UK for 30 years. And she praised his achievements not because he was a socialist, but because he was a man of conviction. Because he had an agenda, he had an ideological vision, and he wanted this vision to exist in reality. And he wanted to turn this vision into actual implementation of decisions. And Margaret Thatcher was the same. She was convinced, can I say this differently? She was convinced that she was right. And so as she was right, and maybe we could even go further, she was the only one to be right, her policies had to be implemented. So, firstly, Margaret Thatcher was violently anti-communist. She actually was given a nickname. She was given a nickname by the Soviet authorities. And this nickname was a very derogatory one. She was nicknamed the Iron Lady. Okay, she was nicknamed the Iron Lady by the Soviet authorities. The Soviet leaders called her the Iron Lady, and she decided to keep this name because she said, yes, you're right, I am determined. She had a very famous slogan. It's well known in the UK. Once she said, the ladies not for turning. That is, I'm a lady, right? I'm a woman in politics, but I know where I'm heading to. And I'm not for turning. So I won't change my mind. There is a direction I want to go. And this direction is against the state. So what does that mean? That she believed that that's actually, I'm going to start by the final word. Once she famously said, there is no such thing as society. I don't know if I still have this book, which is titled "There is no such thing as society." I have it, but it must be somewhere else in the house. What does that mean? Society does not exist. There are only individuals. Okay. I'm going to explain monetarianism right now. Okay, monetarianism is going to be my next explanation because it's an economic theory which inspired her a lot. Okay, but globally, Jade, thank you. You've said the major thing. What I would like to explain is how limiting the amount of money available can also transform society and the way people behave. So, individualism. You are responsible for your own situation. If you're poor, your choice. If you're rich, you certainly worked well. If you're poor, you've not worked enough. Okay? It's explaining your position in society by your own personal choices. So, of course, you can guess that she was not fond of critical social sciences like, she certainly was not much inspired by Pierre Bourdieu or other critical sociology, proving that you can be determined by your social background. She did not believe in this. And remember, she was born the daughter of a grocer. So she said, hey, I have climbed the social ladder. I've climbed the social ladder alone with my own merits. So everybody should do the same. What does that mean? That, of course, she wanted to attack the welfare state. Because what is the welfare state? Whatever you do, you get support from the state. If you're not brave enough to find a job, the state will give you unemployment benefits. If you can't raise your kids alone because you don't earn enough money, the state will give you family allowances. So actually, this is what she called the nanny state. That's an expression I've already used, right? But what is the nanny state? It's when the state takes so much care of you that you lose all your capacity to be autonomous. Okay? When you have a nanny, you have no independence. Someone is watching over you. So yes, someone is protecting you. A nanny is here to protect you. But you're never free. You're like a kid. You're like a child. So we should remove this nanny position of the state. The state is a nanny because it provides you school. The state is a nanny because it provides you health care. The state is a nanny because it provides you with jobs if you're a public worker. So you're dependent on the state. You're not an autonomous person. So the best way for people to be free is to remove this protection from the state. After all, it's true. I'm going to play the devil's lawyer, right? It's true. Look at myself. I'm a public servant. You know what? Whatever happens, I mean, apart from me disappearing from the surface of the earth, whatever happens, I get a salary. You know what? I could just you know what I could do right now? I could just cut this session and say, hey, okay, I'm free. I don't want to teach you a lesson. And you know what? I would get paid. Problem is that I'm dependent on the state to pay me, but that does not encourage my own responsibility. If you had to pay me each time I teach a lesson, I would be very careful about being paid, and certainly I would never miss a lesson or whatever. This is what Margaret Thatcher thought, actually, right? It's monetarianism, for those asking. I'm back onto monetarianism for 1 second. So, she was a promoter of self-responsibility. What you call the promotion of the self. That is, each individual should not rely on the social solidarity. You should only rely on your own responsibility and commitment and courage and capacity to work and so on. It means that she had a strong work ethics. She believed in work. Okay, she said. Secondly, she was into monetarianism. What is monetarianism? Jade has already explained it clearly. It's based on the economic analysis by something called, sorry for the terminal ES, who certainly know all of this, but not everybody knows. Some things called the Austrian School of Economics. The Austrian school is a current which would give way to neoliberalism. Okay, the Austrian school is associated to neoliberalism. It was created after World War II, and it was mostly based on the reflection by several thinkers, like Friedrich von Hayek. The name is in the chart that you've got, in the summary diagram you have, the influences of Margaret Thatcher. Friedrich von Hayek, who wrote a book called The Road to Serfdom, En route vers le servage. And he said that the road to serfdom was socialism, was the Labour Party, was all the Keynesianism. Okay? After World War II, it was a minority current. Many people did not believe in this. And what did von Hayek and von Mises, the two major Austrian economists, say? What did they say? By not promoting entrepreneurship, by not promoting the responsibility of individuals, the state is turning individuals into serfs, like in the Middle Ages. Instead of having a lord, instead of having a noble watching over you and providing you with security and protection, the state is doing this. So the more the state intervenes in the economy, by supporting the wages, by giving you benefits and so on, the less free you are. Because it's like, you're like someone always in need of the state supplying money. And according to them, one way for the state to keep people dependent is by creating money all the time. Credit, and so on. And they believe that by creating too much money and creating inflation, the economy would lose stability. Okay? So, monetarianism is not on Google, right? Okay, so, and what is it called? Monetarism, maybe? Okay? In the English language, you may have always two forms of these adjectives. Either it's form on the name and it can give monetarism, or it's form on the adjective monetarian, and so it can be monetarianism. But actually both exist. As you can see, I've not invented it. That comes from a book on Margaret Thatcher, so I found it in a British book, Monetarianism. So I guess it's... And when there was a key term a few years ago, it was monetarianism too. So if it's not on Google... It's strange. Anyway, monetarism, if you want to look at this in French. What does it consist in? Fighting against inflation. What does that mean? The banks should stop creating money. But when the state stops creating money, it means that you lower credit capacity. So it means that, of course, who do you penalize? You penalize the small enterprises and you penalize the working class and middle class households, the one who needs credit to have access to some property or some consumption. Okay? But that was a strong belief that the amount of money in circulation should be reduced. And to reduce the amount of money in circulation, you should reduce the amount of money spent by the state. And this is how you loop the loop, and that's the neoliberal approach. A shrinking of the state. She said the state is not the solution, the state is the problem. The welfare state is the problem. One way to reduce the debt, and that was a real problem. Margaret Thatcher did not invent this problem. It was real in the UK. A way to reduce the debt of the UK is to slash brutally in the state spendings. How can you reduce the state spendings? Reducing armament? Oh no. She was a conservative. So, and as you will see, she will use the armament in a war. I will discuss this in 15 minutes. So, the other solution is to have the welfare state dramatically reduced and shrunk. And so, of course, her policies would firstly harm the groups, the categories that were dependent on the welfare state. And that's mostly the working class, the unemployed, the single parent families who had only one revenue and depending on the family allowances. Guess what? Mostly working class women. Working class women and women from coming from the immigration, right? So communities, migrant communities. These were the categories that would be harmed by this policy. Okay? So, clearly, I don't know if you've seen the movie The Blues Brothers. It dates back to the early 80s, and it's two white men who travel across America to spread the word of God through music, like blues and gospels. And they say many times, we're on mission for God. Margaret Thatcher, she was on mission for neoliberalism. Okay? So, in 3 words, reducing the size of the state, reducing the perimeter of intervention of the state. It's an anti-state ideology, because state is communism and state is slavery or serfdom, as von Hayek would say. Secondly, reducing the circulation of money. Money creates debt. Too much money creates debt. It's better to limit the amount of money. This, because if you have less money available, it would be rather invested in creating wealth. So that's also a very liberal parameter. Finally, individuals exist, society and social solidarity does not exist. That's our creed, okay? This is our declaration of faith. Okay? Right? Okay, good. Now, how did she implement this? What did she do to make these principles, this ideology, if you want, concrete, actual, real? Okay, right, sorry, that's it. Firstly, as you know, one way for politicians to have their policies implemented is the budget. And I'm sure you know how it works. I hope you do. I'm sure Monsieur Ropoulos may have had the opportunity to tell you how it works. But in democracies, the cabinet, that is, and the government, each secretary of government, each minister, is going to evaluate the necessary spendings for the year to come. So she was elected in 1979, so the first budget she could pass was 1980. Each ministry is about to say, okay, let's evaluate how much money we need to have for our actions next year. Okay? Of course, it is based on the previous years. I mean, they don't invent. But the previous years were Labour government budgets. So Margaret Thatcher say, we're going to act very differently. Each ministry will have to reduce their spendings. And then, once the budget is established, the budget goes to the Parliament, the House of Commons. And the MPs, the Member of Parliament, or l'Assemblée nationale in France, they vote the budget. And quite interestingly, in the first budget that she passed, that Margaret Thatcher tried to reduce, some conservative MPs voted against. Because even for some conservative Member of Parliament, she was going too far and she would increase the crisis in the UK. Right? And actually, this is what happened. The very first year, she decided to reduce the taxes. Okay? The first year, she decided to reduce the taxes. Why did she believe in tax reduction? Why did she believe in tax decrease? Because if you pay less tax, if you pay fewer taxes, you can consume more. So that could restart the British economy. Money that the state does not take you is used for consumption. Oh, that works. That works when you're not unemployed. Secondly, the companies, the corporations, the business would pay fewer taxes. That would enable them to invest in the economy. And if they had fewer taxes to pay, then they would have to borrow less money. You see the point? If you pay many taxes and you want to invest, one part of what you've not saved has to be borrowed. If you lower the taxes to businesses, they have more money available and they have to borrow less money. And so you can be faithful to the monetarian practice. Problem, as you know it, taxes are used to finance the welfare state. And so she reduced some benefits given to the people. She froze benefits given to families. She froze benefits given to the unemployed. And you know what happened? It means that there was a loss in consumption in the UK and more factories closed. It means that the first year when she implemented her policies, it was a failure. Let me give you examples. In 1979, when she was elected, there were 500,000 unemployed people in the UK. Okay? 500,000 jobless people. 1 year and a half later, there were 2 million unemployed people. In the first year and a half of her mandate, unemployment was multiplied by 4, from 500,000 to 2 million people. And she was attacked of course she was attacked by the Labour Party, who said that she was a monster, that she was destroying the British economy, that she was killing the working class and so on. But she also was criticized within the Conservative Party. Okay? She was so much criticized that she almost lost her leadership in the Conservative Party. In 1980, during the Conservative Party conference, a meeting, she was challenged. And some people within the Conservative Party wanted her off. And in this occasion, she said the famous sentence I've already mentioned, "You want me to do a U-turn, but I tell you, the lady is not for turning." Okay, so she was determined to go further. In 1981, there were 2.5 million unemployed people in the UK. And that created a lot of tensions. In 1981 in London, there were the Brixton riots. Brixton, as you may know, Brixton is mostly it's a working class neighborhood in London. It's traditionally the Jamaican and West Indian neighborhood, right? Reggae music in London is mostly based in Brixton. And you had confrontation between the police and the people. And that was due to tensions arising. These tensions, these riots spread to the rest of the UK. You had some in Birmingham too. It was a time of a very regular social unrest in the UK. And one day, let me tell you a story, and I think that says everything about Margaret Thatcher. She decided to go in the cities which were under these troubles. And I think it was in Birmingham. I might be wrong, or maybe it was in Northern England. I can't remember where. And she was filmed in front of a house, you know. And this house had suffered from, the trouble with broken windows and so on. And she said, if the people in this town would spend more time cutting the grass, and keeping their house in order, we wouldn't have this trouble. So instead of going and demonstrate in the street, why wouldn't the young unemployed people take some time to, have fresh painting and cut the grass and mow the grass and repair and so on. So use your energy not to demonstrate, but use your energy to, improve your environment. That was at the moment when unemployment was rising by the thousands, by the tens of thousands every single month. Okay? So, just to answer your question, I repeat again. It's okay, Gwen. It's okay. Keep quiet. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. It's a creed. It's something she believed in. So, 1979 to 1981, unemployment in the UK from 0.5 million to 2.5 millions. Okay? I'm sorry, I'm just typing it in the chat, so if you want to take the notes, you can do that. Unemployment. Okay. Right? So, she failed. People in the Conservative parties told her to resign. They said, okay, right, you've gone too far. Too much too soon. Maybe some liberal reforms were needed. Maybe it was needed in the UK to have less state intervention, and maybe it was needed to, reduce the state spendings, but you're going too far. Okay, now I'm going to defend Margaret Thatcher. She was not responsible for unemployment. Maybe she aggravated it, but she was not responsible. The UK's economy was not competitive. The UK's industry was not competitive. Crisis was striking everywhere else in Europe, in Western Germany, in France, in the USA too, but also in Belgium, in Italy. All the traditional industries were being harmed and destroyed and dismantled due to globalization, due to the challenge coming from rising Asian economies, Korea, Singapore, and so on. It was the moment when you were moving from an industrial economy to a post-industrial economy. And as the UK was an industrial power, these were the jobs that were being destroyed. What she might have aggravated is that in a period of crisis, instead of having the state helping the people that were hurt by this context, she decided that, on the contrary, it was time to reduce the state spendings. Right? In 2 years, sorry. So between 1979 and 1981, between 1979 and 1981, 2 million manufacturing jobs, 2 million industrial jobs were destroyed in the UK. Not because of Margaret Thatcher, because of the international crisis. And so that's the situation. Okay? Right. Margaret Thatcher, in 1982 was the least popular prime minister since the invention of modern polling. You know, when you do a surveys, you know, you call the population and you say, hey, what do you think of such politician? What do you think of such decision, right? Only 25%, only 25% of the British electorate supported a policy. That means that even within the Conservative Party, one Conservative voter out of two, or no, one Conservative voter, two Conservatives voter out of five, 40% of the Conservative voters thought she should resign. And election, yeah, absolutely, Alicia, it was more of a structural issue. It's the issue of what you call deindustrialization. And deindustrialization is, my bad, I can't write properly. Deindustrialization was one stage of economic structural changes. Okay? The Industrial Revolution number 1 and number 2, they were in Europe and North America. Coal, steel, iron, okay, and transport like the railways. The second Industrial Revolution was more based on electricity, chemistry, and car manufacturing and oil. These two industrial revolutions were over. The third step would be the third industrial revolution, and that was electronics and globalization. And so the structural changes that affected the British economy happened exactly at that moment, in the 1970s. They were aggravated by the oil shocks, the oil crisis. But even without the oil crisis, there would have been problems, because now you could produce cheaper elsewhere. Okay, you could produce cheaper elsewhere in Eastern Asia globally. But also, new jobs were needed. You know, the computers, the personal computers, the PC, that's the 1970s. And that were the early stages of computerization and digitalization of the economy. So it was the beginning of a new industrial time. But as the UK had built its economy on the former industry, they were especially hurt by this period, as France was, as Western Germany at that time was. And this is why Thatcher said we should move from an industrial, we should do something called a sectorial shift from the industry to the tertiary sector. Okay? What saved, I'm going to conclude here for today. What saved Margaret Thatcher? A war. In 1982, the dictatorial regime of Argentina, a military regime, invaded British islands in the South Atlantic Ocean, called the Falkland Islands, which the Argentinians call the Malvinas. Islas Malvinas, and the French call les îles Malouines. And this war totally transformed Margaret Thatcher's destiny. Because instead of letting these small islands to the Argentinians, she started a war, and she turned herself into a kind of Churchillian personality and Churchillian character. Before the war, she had a 25% popularity rate, the lowest since the invention of political surveying. After the war, she was so popular that she won the 1983 general election in a landslide. And she decided that now nothing could stop her. She was ready for Thatcher's second stage. Okay? I am done for today. So now we have two possibilities, people. We have the zealous possibility of working on the Falkland War on next Friday. That's in 2 days, but that's also a holiday. We can do that. I'm okay with that. Or we can do that on next Monday, but if we meet on next Monday, I will really need like 1 hour 45, because I won't be able to do that in just 1 hour. And remember, I won't be able to teach you neither on Wednesday nor on next Friday, like 13th and 15th of May, because I'll be recruiting new candidates for the OIB. So, honestly, your choice. I can do both. Either 1 hour on Friday, 1 hour on Monday, or we just decide to sleep longer on Friday and take longer time on Monday. Your choice. Honestly, I can do both. Okay? I know it's the 8th of May, but I mean, I don't want to sound too... I don't want to tread on your workers' rights, right? I think Monday is fine. If you're ready to have a longer lesson on Monday, it's good. Because, we make one long lesson about the Falkland War and the role of the press in the Falkland War. And in 1 hour, 40 minutes, I can do that on Monday. So let's say Monday. Yeah, sleep longer is good. So, I agree with you. So, Monday, 4 p.m. Okay, good. Monday, 4 p.m. That's fine. We agree on this. It's perfect. I agree with you. Okay, so see you on Monday. See you on next Monday. Monday, c'est bien. Dormir plus longtemps, c'est bien. On est tous d'accord. Écoutez, jeunes gens, on se revoit donc lundi. Et puis en plus, c'est bien parce que lundi, on aura eu le protocole de reprise. Donc normalement, on saura ce qu'on fait. Lundi matin, on est censé avoir le protocole de reprise. Voilà. Ok, je te laisse défiler alors. Et célébrer la victoire du nazisme. La victoire contre le nazisme, pardon, excuse-moi. La victoire contre le nazisme du 8 mai. Ça marche. Allez, à lundi, 16h. Passez une bonne fin de semaine et portez-vous bien. Faites attention à vous. Ok ? Ciao ! Bye bye.